You know, when people do something for our mental health, it's actually huger than anything else, because if you feel calm, if you feel safe, if you feel competent, if you feel capable, if your self-esteem is actually where it ought to be, even if it's not, and you found out you could get it to where it ought to be, if your anxiety started to diminish, what would you do to be able to have that luxury? Well, it used to be a luxury because it was kind of way out of reach. Now it's in reach. In a moment, you're going to meet an award-winning scientist dedicated to exploring the mysteries of the brain, mental wellness, and cognitive functioning. He's the founder of BrainTap. It's a device that NBC and People magazine have often compared to Peloton, but for your brain. And just like a muscle, your brain can be trained, it can be strengthened, leading to more energy, sharper focus, better sleep, smoother meditation, and significantly less stress, which is just the bane of every human's existence. Thanks to Dr. Patrick Porter's groundbreaking work in functional neuroscience, he's shaping the future of brain fitness. Dr. Patrick Porter, I want to welcome you to Rethinking Heroes.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
It's wonderful to hear the advances in the brain. Many of us have heard about neuroplasticity. We've heard about it. We can't pronounce the word, have no idea what it means. Neuroscience. Walk us through a little bit about what we're kind of going to be looking at here.
Well, when you think of neuroplasticity, think about it, the brain's capacity to do work. So if you have neuroplasticity, that means that you can make decisions, you can sleep better. You've probably heard it said that my children are too tired to sleep. Well, most adults are too tired to sleep or even think or meditate. So we need to get more energy into the brain. And when you have energy, you can transform. If not, we have what's called neuropruning, which happens to us as we age. That means our brain disconnects. And that's what when you think about dementia and Alzheimer's and things of that nature, it's not enough energy in the brain. We've shown in our studies, if we can get the energy up to 20% from where it was when they started the study, in our study in Florida, we took everybody off the dementia scale in 6 weeks just by doing this brainwave entrainment 3 times a day.
So, and we're talking about BrainTap, which is your amazing device here. You actually have real evidence of improvement in what looked like just endless chaos and defeat in the future. Right. It looks like you've been able to pretty much arrest that.
Yeah, well, we've seen that it doesn't matter what's going on with the brain. If it's dysregulated, it's going to cause problems like ADD, ADHD. That's a dysregulated brain, meaning that the 2 hemispheres aren't communicating. So I tell people, if I was to ask you to remember your favorite vacation, your brain would have to go to work producing 8 different links or more to the brain, reclaim those memories and reconstruct those in your brain instantaneously almost. It's like instant. But if you don't have enough energy, it'd be like me trying to send a signal across town. I can say whatever I want in this room. If I don't have the power to send that signal, they don't hear it on the other end. So the brain then would say, there's not enough energy, so I'm going to disconnect that neuro connection. The memory's still there. And one of the experiments I love to share is there was actually an experiment they did with mice. And they took the mice through the maze and they wanted to find out, where do mice store memories? Because everybody thinks it's the brain. The reality is it isn't the brain, because they took the mice were running through the maze. They systematically took the brains out of the mice. Pretty soon they got right down to the brain stem on all the mice. They could still run the maze. What they figured out was memories are not stored in the tissue. They're stored in the field. And in 1994, our National Institute of Health said that we have a biosphere. We have an energy field that surrounds us. And we now know that the heart, which is a magnetic in nature, it pulses information out to the body 86,000 times a day as an instruction set. So if you think about that field is what we're talking about. So our brain, when we're talking about healing the brain or working with the brain, we're talking about healing the mechanism, like taking a radio and putting a new crystal in it so we get to the radio station. If we don't have the right crystals, we don't have the right hardware, we can't pick up the right signal, but the information's still there. When somebody says they have a bad memory, no, they have a bad recall system, not a bad memory. Our brain records everything. Our consciousness, I should say, records everything.
We've in the past talked about, and we're going to get into BrainTap in just a second, but we've in the past talked about the Monroe Institute in Faber, West Virginia, where historically everyone from the CIA to whoever has gone there for remote viewing. And this is real. My own twin sister, or twister, goes there on holiday. Her idea of a good time is out of body for 10 days. and going into level 36 and whatever. But I have seen with my own eyes spoons that she has bent with her brain, things like that, that I thought could be a parlor trick, at least as we're all sort of given to believe publicly. But we know this stuff is real, very real. And you've now created an actual device and an app, a new way to use technology to upgrade the brain. Maybe you could help us understand what this device is and what it actually does.
Yeah. Well, when you think about everything in nature, we're here because our parents and our relatives in our history have been able to interpret light, sound, and vibration. And so what we're going to do, and these are all the cues, everything in reality is formed on these cues, visual, auditory, and kinesthetic responses. So what we did is we were looking at sound, and we did a lot of work with the Monroe Institute. In fact, I had property in Chipman, Virginia, just down the road from them. And so they do a lot. When they probably would have been with us more, but they just wanted to go with sound. And what I found out with sound alone, you can get into that when the brain is in a whole brain state, you can do, because the mind isn't located in your body either. They know that we're non-locale. I'm the dean of brain-based medicine at Quantum University, so we talk about all these crazy things. But the reality is that when your brain's dysregulated, you can't. So then you've been using hemisync, as they call it, or binaural beats. The brain gets synchronized. Now, we use isochronic tones along with that because not everybody has perfect hearing. Maybe they have a problem. And we use frequencies to actually activate different regions of the brain. So sound becomes a very good texture. But if you just use sound alone, what we know is that 30% of your brain will go dormant. And that's why people can't meditate. The default mode network goes crazy. And if you've ever done an EEG scan, they'll tell you to do open eye or closed eye, because most people, when they close their eyes, they have a high sympathetic or a fight or flight response when they close their eyes, especially in the presence of others, because they feel vulnerable. And that's, I probably on my right hand could mention everybody that I've ever measured that does meditation correctly without the use of something like the Monroe Institute or some kind of training program, because the brain just doesn't do it on its own, because we're used to closing our eyes and going to sleep. So we want to keep it awake. So we use light in the eyes and the ears. Now, most people don't realize that every cell of our body has something called a chromophore, which is a little battery that absorbs energy from light, sound, and vibration in the world around us. Now, we can leave it up to our body to do that. And there's a problem with that, because as we age, it's harder and harder to bring that energy in. Or we can, more or less, we call it hacking the body, because we're going to use the light frequencies of 650 and 470 nanometer light. We're going to imitate morning and sunset and sunrise to awaken the brain's potential. And when we're in these frequencies, our body doesn't know the difference between real or imagined. So to give an example, at Ames Bhopal, when I was there, one of the professors said that I was cheating, that I was teaching people to meditate in cheating because these gurus take 30 years to do this. And I could take somebody on stage and have them in the same brainwave state as the guru in less than 10 minutes. And I said, have you ever meditated to a candle? Oh, yeah, all the time. I said, well, then you're cheating. He said, what do you mean? I said, our mirror neurons, every cell of our body has a mirror neuron. And now we know that mirror neuron is basically evaluating everything that's going around us, everything that's going on within us, literally everything. And it's then mirroring that in our genetic system, in our epigenetics. So when a candle is flickering, that candle flickers at 10 hertz. You probably heard people say, I'm mesmerized by the fire.
Yeah.
The reality is that they went into alpha because that fire was flickering at 10 hertz. Now that then tells the brain, tells the gut to make acetylcholine, which makes us feel good. So when we're around fires, that's why we like it. Now, I also said, Dr. Varun, I said, have you ever wondered why the gurus go to the Himalayas to meditate? He said, oh, yeah, to get away from people. I said, no, they're cheating. He said, what do you mean? I said, when you're sitting in the mountains, you're sitting in a isochronic tone generator. Think of the Earth. If you and I were on a spaceship flying toward Earth, the Earth would resonate between 0.5 and 100. And our body would know that. As an example, during the floods in Thailand, when they showed the pictures, there was no animals or birds or anything there, because they're in tune with nature. But people were running out after the wave, and we never saw them again, because we're not in tune anymore with the frequencies of nature. But when these gurus are sitting in the mountains, they're sitting in a theta wave, because the mountains resonate at 7.8 hertz frequency. Now, what these two do, acetylcholine is alpha, but theta is GABA. GABA is a precursor to DMT. So if you ever heard anybody say, I had a mountaintop experience, we metaphorically know when we have these kind of spiritual breakthroughs. And so our brain creates them. And since we have the world's greatest pharmacy between our ears, Most people don't know how to activate it. So it's brainwave frequencies that activate it. So what BrainTap does is takes you through a cycle of sleep where we build up our neurotransmitter bank account. You've probably heard that there's a mental health problem in the world today. I don't think it's a mental health problem as much as it is a physiological health problem, because people are sitting too much. They're not moving. Our brain needs to move and breathe. We're designed actually, if the sun's out, we should be outside walking and, gathering or hunting. And then at night, what did we do? We didn't watch TV until 3 a.m. and change to every channel possible. What we did was we watched a fire and we talked. And then when the fire went out, nobody said, let's binge watch another log. Go out to the woods, everybody
watch another log.
Yeah. So, what people do now. So I think what BrainTap does is it basically synthesizes what we knew naturally, but people won't do. And there's 3 different times of the day. So it's not like one brainwave entrainment fixes everything. We have over 2,000 on the app. But in the morning, we need what's called SMR. We call it digital coffee, because in the morning, especially if you use a alarm clock, it's probably the worst thing you can do for your nervous system. If you're using a alarm. Now, if you use a piece of music or something beautiful to wake you up, that's fine. But when you trigger your stress system of the body, most people don't realize that you've triggered the liver. And the liver produces 25 grams of sugar with every stress response. So when you have a stressor, your bloodstream can only have 1 tablespoon of sugar circulating at any one time. So that means there's 4 circulating grams of sugar that need to go somewhere. Where do you think they go? Adipose tissue. So people don't want that. But that's like having a candy bar, but you don't get to enjoy it. So when people try to lose weight, or they go, I don't even eat sugar. I can't believe I'm gaining weight. Well, it's not always what you're eating. It's what's eating you. So first thing,
stress can make you fat.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I have an article I have out there. It's one of the most read articles I wrote is why is stress more fattening than chocolate? Because when people do the double way, they eat the chocolate, then they stress over eating the chocolate, so they get both. So, we all know people that don't stress about that, and they're thin, and they don't let things bother them. And this is a key factor that we work on with BrainTap, is that most people, unfortunately, because of our genetics and, of how we're brought up, we look at life as a threat instead of as a challenge. They did a study during COVID. Every person listening to this actually is emitting 8-10 nanometer light from their mitochondria. We are light beings, and it's being broadcast through our dura and our fascia, and it's telling our body what to do. So every 40 seconds, we're changing every DNA pair. So they can measure this light photonic exchange. That's why you can see me and I can see you, is you're emitting photons. What they showed was in COVID, they took the people that were looking at life as a challenge versus people looking at life as a threat. Those that looked at life as a threat were actually transmitting 200 times less light. So what that means is the cells were not getting the communication they needed, and they were down-regulating their nervous system to prove them right. And they're probably the ones that got all the colds and things that they then said were COVID. Whatever was going on, because the body, but they do know something called psychoimmunology, which is when we look at life as a challenge, our body actually regulates upward, and we become more powerful beings. And that's why we call it brain fitness. Just like if you want to do some work with your body, we've got to get to the gym and work out the muscles, ligaments, and tendons. And of course, we will get some brain-derived neurotropic factors and build some neuroplasticity by working out. But like Tom Brady said, and he's our partner in the sports world with TBRX, he said that for every 1 minute of extraneous training, you need 2 minutes of recovery. And we know that in the brain world, that recovery equals neuroplasticity, the capacity to do work. So we want to. So BrainTap helps you to build that capacity, because nobody's going to get rid of their cell phones or the big screen televisions and their nice amenities. We need to upgrade our nervous system to handle these things, and we can. The nice thing is that we don't even know a tenth of what we can do as a human, right?
And this is real Chuck Darwin here, adapt or perish. So we know that the amenities, as you point out, they're not going away. They're ubiquitous. There are 8 billion people on the planet. Every one of them, more or less, at this point, has access to some kind of device. It's only going to grow, metastasize, if you will. So for us to upgrade our ability to cooperate with these devices rather than be victims of them means that we can actually function properly again. And And much of what we're all seeing that you're talking about is we're just being like plowed by stuff, but we don't know what to do about it. You're talking about a fix, and you are Dr. Patrick Porter, by the way, an award-winning scientist, founder of BrainTap, which is a device often compared to Peloton, but it's for the brain. Training and strengthening, leading to more energy, sharper focus, better sleep, smoother meditation. Dr. Porter was honored with the 2021 Lifetime Achievement Award, and we're really doing a deep dive right now into brain chemistry and why you sort of feel the way you do, including that you can actually gain weight by being stressed more than by eating chocolate. Look at the French, eating lots of chocolate, not so fat. But then, of course, they have universal health care and everything is handled, so their stress level is lower. Politics for another time, another show. But it's all very interesting because everything you're saying is actually provable. And this is what's so exciting to me.
Yeah, we tell people when I give my talks, typically I say, I'm not asking you to believe anything I'm saying. You can leave that for Sunday morning. This is science. This is all based in science. We have a lot of research. Right, we're talking here right now. We have 7 university studies. We just beat out opioids in a study down in Brazil, in Florianopolis, because most people don't realize opioids were approved for only 4 weeks of use. But how many people get on opioids and get off in 4 weeks? They don't, because you can't have the pill without the skill. Just like SSRIs, I know a lot of people that are still on them. Those were only approved for 14 days of use.
Really?
Yeah. So when people think about it, what the brain does, they're easy to get on and hard to get off. And after a while, they don't even work. In fact, there's a book out there called The Suggestible You, and it talks about how the placebo is now up to 40%. That the SSRIs wouldn't even have passed the screening because the belief of the person is more important. You can actually get better results. They could get better results by giving them a pill. And in my background, psychology, so there's not been very many. In fact, I can't find any psychological tests that are better than 12%. And the placebo is 40. So that means they're talking people out of their change, so what we really need to do is learn to function in this world, not try to make excuses for it. It really doesn't matter. The brain doesn't care who your parents were and all of those things. It wants to know how you're going to interact or react to stimulus that's happening in the world around you. And the nice thing about brain fitness is you can train your brain to do those things. And it's connected to a lot of different things, but mainly to our thinking processes and our breathing. So those are the 2 combinations we use in BrainTap to help people regulate out of those negative emotional states. When you think about emotional states, they all have one thing in common. They don't breathe. If you have children, when they get angry, they come up and they're not, and you say, just breathe, they get angrier because they know as soon as they breathe, they're not going to be angry anymore. So we have to let go of that. And sometimes you just can't explain what's going on. So the brain gets in these cybernetic loops and wants to know or wants to get even. And that's where forgiveness and just being grateful comes in, and the brain functions better in an expanded state rather than a threatened state.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call now.
Looking to earn more money online? Well, meet Kartra, that's Kartra, the ultimate all-in-one business platform that makes it easier than ever to boost your income. With Kartra, creators, coaches, and experts can turn their knowledge and services into profits. You can create pages and funnels that attract customers, build memberships that share your knowledge, automate your business to free up your time, and so much more. Kartra has every tool you need to grow your business in one place. And the best part? It's super affordable and easy to use. Are you ready to streamline and scale? Well, head on over to rethinkingheroes.com/money for a free 30-day trial. That's rethinkingheroes.com/money for a free 30-day trial.
Listen while it's still legal.
Rethinking Heroes with Cary Harrison. rethinkingheroes.com.
Dr. Patrick Porter, you've got this cool app. You've got a device, BrainTap. that creates a positive impact, really on a global scale, one brain at a time, as you say, I can see enormous positive impact for a world of veterans who suffer from PTSD and other things. The VA is clueless what to do next. I think you've got what to do next right here.
Yeah, we have a really good relationship with a group called Bone Frog and the Thin Line to help the vets, and they actually we became partners with them as the integration tool for psychedelics, because we're finding that psychedelics do a lot of. Again, you can't have the pill without the skill, so you get the psychedelics like psilocybin. It really gets the brain active, gets a lot of energy into the brain. But if you don't do something to integrate that, it really just becomes a great experience. But we want to show them that they can dysregulate, because with one of the theories I have about PTSD that's been proven to be correct is that people don't know how to get rid of that negative emotional state. You need to get rid of that. Those emotions drive behavior. And if they're so used to having chaos and anxiety, and then when they don't have it, they have to create it in their world. They don't understand that they're doing that. It's almost they become addicted to it, but it's unconscious. It's not a conscious thing. They're not consciously saying, I want to have this. It's just because they didn't do anything about those memories and those experiences, the brain actually patterned. The brain loves patterns. So even though those patterns will hurt us, like overeating or drinking or any of the other patterns that people have that are destructive, people don't really realize that they created them and now they're creating them. So the subconscious feeds that back, because our world is basically, you and I, 95% of our activities are controlled by our other than conscious mind, not our conscious mind. But everybody tries to change the conscious mind, which has little control over anything.
So, we deal with a fair amount of vets. We deal with really the general public, which are, in a sense, all vets with PTSD nowadays. It feels like it's true. Mm-hmm. Your wonderful device, BrainTap, which has a visor on it, and there's apps, and it does all this cool stuff and use light emissions and pulses and all this smart stuff that people they've heard about analogous types of treatment. We know these things are true. We know these things are real. We know there's a real success model here. You found a way to distill it into really one device. Does it require repeat use, just sort of ongoing for endless tune-ups, or can you do it in a month? What can people expect?
You can get good results in as little as 6 weeks if you wanted to. I mean, if you're significantly want some impact. But the reality is that unless you live on Gilligan's Island and your only choice is Ginger or Marianne, you're going to need to do something, because there's stress every day. I've been asked on shows before, is it addictive? And I said, I don't know. I've been doing it since 1986. So, it's one of those things, it's kind of like if somebody says, dude, am I addicted to working out? No, but I know if I don't work out, I'm going to lose muscle mass. And one of the things we know as we grow, better looking and more intelligent with age, is we need muscle, or we're going to have some trouble. So this is something I think within the next 10 years, people are going to realize you have to have some kind of brain fitness modality, or you're going to lose those neuron connections. The only reason people are getting dementia, Alzheimer's, unless it's something that I'm missing, because every person in our study, and we have over 100 people now in our study in Seminole College, as soon as they get their energy levels up over 20%, because they're below 10% out of the 100% capacity of their brain, they don't have Alzheimer's anymore, or dementia. I'm sorry, not Alzheimer's, but dementia. Alzheimer's takes a little bit more effort because they're more deteriorated. But the brain, what we really need is to stimulate ATP production, because the brain knows how to heal itself. So does the body, has an innate intelligence. But if it doesn't have the currency, it'd be like me wanting to go to the store and buy some groceries. If I don't have the currency to buy those groceries, I can't. If the brain doesn't have the currency, it can't heal. So we live in an energy economy now, and almost everything we're exposed to, unfortunately, compromises our energy. So we have to do something to increase our energies.
Let me say, you are one of the best guests I have enjoyed in months. You are a fizz with energy and brilliance. You're an excellent storyteller, and I'm absorbing every single thing you say. So this is like a super home run. You mentioned earlier about people's memories and memory, period. And it sounds like people can sabotage their memory without even realizing it.
Right. Well, if you say to yourself, I don't have a good memory, your subconscious will always make you right. It will downregulate your epigenetic system and make it so you don't have those memories. And then you'll create neural pruning. And if you try to do too much work when you don't have the energy and you haven't recovered, that also it's kind of like practicing golf. If you overtrain because you're swinging poorly, that overtrained poor swing will meet you on the golf course. So you have to make sure your energy's high when you're doing these things. We call it, in schools, we use BrainTap. We call it brain prep because, again, kids don't have energy either, so
Yes.
we need to prep the brain for this learning. And then after you've learned something, you need to have some way to, synthesize it so you have recall of it. And that's sleep. So most people aren't getting enough sleep. And that's because they don't have enough energy to sleep. So we have to do something about that.
So help us understand a little bit about sleep. We all know we need it. We all know we get tired. We all know that it helps after every day of doing it in our bad way that we do it. But what is actually sleep that's doing anything for us other than I'm tired and I'm going to bed?
Well, there's a few things sleep is doing, and I'll just mention a few of them. There's probably a million others, but when you go through the different waves of sleep, like they call them sleep cycles, usually they take 90 minutes, and the more of those sleep cycles you have, the better. But most people think you need time in bed. When we did our Australian study, we found that the Australian coal miners were in bed for 10 hours. They only got 1 to 2 minutes of deep sleep. They had terrible sleep. So what longevity studies show is 6.5 hours is all you need, but you need 1 hour of deep sleep and 2 hours of REM sleep, and you'll crush any sleep score out there. And why that's important is that when you're in deep level 4 sleep, that's the only time your brain detoxes. In 2015, imagine this, in 2015, they found out a part of the human body that they didn't even know existed. It's called the glial lymphatic system. And if you go back in time to 2014 and earlier, you will not find a physiology book that shows the lymphatic system in the brain area. Well, that's impossible because in physiology, anywhere there's a blood vessel, there's a lymph vessel. But they didn't know it existed until you go to level 4 sleep. So that's the key reason. And in fact, they wrote a whole journal about it in American Scientific, page 45 in the May issue. And they talked about how they call it the garbage man of the system. So if you're not doing that, then you're not detoxing the brain. So sleep is meant for a few things. It's cleanup time. Now, how do you know you're in level 4 sleep for the people that don't have EG? So if you ever woke up in the middle of the night and you had sleep paralysis, you couldn't move. You were in sleep because your body actually goes offline when you're in deep level 4 sleep. Now, it only happens in micro bursts. So if you've ever woke up and you couldn't move, you're like, oh, freaking out. That's because,
right.
You're locked out of all your neurology because the brain is on hold while it basically pumps out all the toxins and then it closes back up. So that's why you have to have these deep sleep cycles. And also that's when you compartmentalize, organize to utilize any memories for the day, any lessons learned, any fears, anything you might have to look out for. If you're not sleeping well, you're not processing that memory. So now you can't have recall of that memory appropriately. And if you don't get to sleep by 10 o'clock, and this is based on the sun, our sun is like the mitochondria of our solar system. It's broadcasting information and energy to us. So if we're not in bed by 10 o'clock, we're not making as much melatonin. If we're not in bed by 11, we're not cleaning our liver. If we're not in bed by 2 o'clock, we don't get the upregulation. Every day at 2 o'clock, your body upregulates at 2 o'clock. It's to burn out toxins in the body. It upregulates. Now, if you're not regulated in your blood, you might sweat. You might think you're having night sweats. But the reality is your body does this every night to keep you clean. And so the body's cleaning the system, healing, and doing all those things during sleep. And if we don't get to sleep, the optimum time would be to sleep by 10 and get up by 4. But most people don't do that.
No, not if they have a job. But all that aside, and I'm keeping you on here long, and I'm enjoying it. So I'm just stretching out the last tendril of possibility here. But it sounds to me like BrainTap also has, in the future, some enormous potential in the learning world. We're all used to VR goggles now. None of this is strange to us. This kind of looks like that. Could you not help people learn and absorb information? And
my first book was called Awaken the Genius. I used to teach teachers accelerated learning techniques, and I talk about them because there's some really simple things we could do in the classroom to make it more entertaining first, because kids are used to being entertained now, not just sit and look at the same old test and things like that. But yes, in India we have a school called the Creative School, and they do brain prep. The whole school does a brain tap before they start the day. And they found that their grade point averages across the board. And we're doing a big study right now at Seminole College in Florida, because the golf team, which has been using BrainTap for the last 4 years national champions. And they found out that golf team had the highest GPA of any sports team. So now we're doing a college-wide study to show how these techniques can be used to improve, just because they have a lot of kids. It's a 2-year school. So there's a lot of kids that couldn't make it into the 4-year colleges, and they need learning skills. So we're teaching them.
Wow. Well, you'll see on your screen how you can get BrainTap, how you can tap into your brain, how you can upskill that organ of truth between your ears, the one that lies to you often, maybe get it to tell you the truth more often. And imagine having a restful sleep. It's anathema to me, but I know it's doable, along with minimizing stress, anxiety, and just really being able to function in a world that is spinning so horribly out of control. You can be the one in control. And imagine that, being able to navigate the uncertain shoals of the future confidently. Dr. Porter was honored with the 2021 Lifetime Achievement Award, and I want to thank you so much for joining us today on Rethinking Heroes.
Preventing truth decay.
Rethinking Heroes with Cary Harrison. RethinkingHeroes.com.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call now.